start. Okay.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. My name is Liliana Stankova, and I am the president of the European Academy for Optometry and Optics. And it is my pleasure to start the Academy Hour this evening. The Academy provides the platform where clinical practitioners, educators, and scientists can come together to collaborate more effectively for this purpose. The practice of eye care in Europe is changing, and these changes are happening in a different place in each country. The Academy can address this diversity of needs and abilities by helping its members to develop their knowledge, strengthen their skills, and acquire new competencies. European Academy for Optometry and Optics support the role that the European Diploma in Optometry has to play in encouraging training providers to raise standards of optometric and optical education. We from the Academy have decided to commence our effort by conducting a survey, which was expertly carried by Dr. Daniela Oring and Dr. Kristina Mihic. By taking this survey, we made a proactive step towards understanding the interests and needs of one of our target audience, the EDO alumni. The Academy is a platform where everybody in optics and optometry in Europe can meet. Our vision is to be the leading European eye care professional networking organization that harmonizes and raises standards and practice in optometry and optics. In order to achieve our vision, our mission is to facilitate the changing face of optometry and optics in Europe by engaging, educating, inspiring, and motivating our educators, students, researchers, and practitioners to achieve the highest level of praxis. The Academy innovate and adapt its CPD offerings based on the changing optometrist and opticians practice environments and scope of practice, advanced in technology, and the changing demographics of both the profession and patients served. Increasing advances in artificial intelligence, virtual reality, 3D printing, and telehealth are expected to have a significant impact on the profession and how optometry is practiced in the next 5 to 10 years. A higher demand of optometrists providing primary care, increased interaction with different medical specialties, and enhanced expectations for interprofessional practice will influence the diverse range of scope of C offered by the Academy. I'm happy to say hello to our speakers tonight, Bente Monica Aakre and Brendan Barrett, who will talk about EDO alumnis. Please, Bente and Barrett.
Yeah, hello everyone. It's so nice to see some familiar faces and names. Brendan and I, we haven't really discussed who should speak first, so I just started, Brendan. So I will start by presenting myself, Bente Monica Aakre. I'm an optometrist. I work at the University of Southeastern Norway, and I'm the head of department there. And I have been a part of the board of examiners for the European Diploma since 2006, I think. Yeah, so that's my background and interest for the European Diploma. Yeah, and over to you, Brendan.
Thanks, Bente Monica. Yes, good evening, everybody. And very sorry about what happened the last time when maybe some of you joined and we had some technical problems, but it's good to get this event underway. So for the next hour or so, we're going to have a discussion, we hope, about the European Diploma in Optometry. And it's really from an alumni perspective that we're hoping that the discussion will be centered around in relation to people who actually may perhaps have the European Diploma and those who are interested in learning more about it. Just a little bit about myself. I'm an Irish trained optometrist, trained in Dublin. Shortly after my PhD, went across to Glasgow, where Bente Monica was based at the time. We overlapped briefly there, and was lecturer there for 2 years, and now for almost 30 years, I can't almost believe I'm saying it, for almost 30 years I've been at the University of Bradford, where I've been teaching and researching, and involved with the GOC, the General Optical Council in the UK, quite a lot in relation to accreditation. And then since about 2016, 2017, got involved in ECO's accreditation activities. And then following the retirements of Bob Chappell and Adrian Jennings, Julianne Little and I have taken on the very, very big shoes to fill, which are sort of chairing the accreditation panels. So I've got a number of slides to show you. I sort of intend to spend 10 minutes, certainly not much more than that, just talking a little bit about that, about these slides, and then we'll open it up to discussion. Just one thing, I can only see about 4 or 5 little photo icons on my screen, so hopefully my colleagues will let us know if there are people who raise their hand to ask a question. But if you raise your hand, there's a danger that I may not see it. So please, if somebody could alert us to when a hand is raised, just because there's only a small number of names and pictures on the screen. So Julianne Little and I are the co-chairs of ECO's accreditation agency. Julianne Little is based in Ulster University in the north of Ireland, and I trained in Dublin, as I say, but I'm now based in Bradford University, right in the middle of the United Kingdom. There's some text. This presentation is being recorded, as you know, so you can have a look back over anything that's of interest. But the European Council of Optometry and Optics represents optometrists and opticians from 25 different countries across Europe, and they have a number of missions, which are all very important. And I don't mean to reduce the importance of the ones that I've put in grey there, but related to our discussion for this evening. One of the vision statements is to create a harmonized professional and education system for optometry and optics that's based on the European Diploma in Optometry and the European Qualification in Optics. So you may not, this session is titled the European Diploma in Optometry, but there is also an additional qualification which I'll make reference to, which is called the European Qualification in Optics, and that's very many fewer institutions have expressed an interest in that, but it is an additional qualification which exists and is offered by ECO. And a second vision statement is to develop the scope of practice for optometrists and opticians to the degree that the same high standards apply and are mutually recognized in all European countries. So that's the dream, that we'll raise the bar and that the bar will be similar across Europe. So it's a very, very, very big ask. So one of the goals, as we've said, is to harmonize the professions of optometry and optics. And to that end, we have a European diploma. That's the vehicle which we're using to try and achieve this harmonization goal. And the European diploma is the main one that is used in this respect. And it has, I think it's fair to say, it has influenced and developed the profession and optometric education in a number of institutions throughout Europe and also outside of Europe. Right at the end of the presentation, I've got a number of I've got a list of the institutions that have accreditation or are working towards accreditation. They're not all contained within Europe. And as I mentioned, we also have the European Qualification in Optics, which is set at a common entry standard for Europe. So ECO established an accreditation agency to oversee these two qualifications, and I'm not involved in anything really relating to what's on the left side of the screen here, but Julianne and I are, as we said, co-chairs of the accreditation agency, and whenever an accreditation takes place, the report on that accreditation goes to what's called the EQB, the European Qualifications Board. And there's a map of Europe showing the countries that are currently ECO members, and it surprised me when I read this statistic that there are around about 100 optometry and optics training programs around Europe, and there really are very big differences in training and in the scope of practice, in how optometry and optics are practiced in those countries. And harmonization is obviously desirable when there's such big differences between countries and across borders. The European Diploma in Optometry is kind of tied to the World Council of Optometry's 4 levels model. Now, this is actually changing. This 4 levels model is changing. The World Council are moving away a little bit from this, but that hasn't happened just yet. But you can see on the left-hand side, optical technology services, which are like dispensing and optics, moving to visual function services, moving to ocular diagnostic services, and so level 3 is divided up into without the use of drugs in countries where the use of drugs by optometrists is not permitted, and B is where the use of diagnostic drugs is permitted, all the way to the right-hand side where there's involvement of optometrists in ocular therapeutics. So the European Diploma is anchored to level 3B, which is ocular diagnostic services with the use of diagnostic drugs. You can get this information, of course, from the blue book, but again, the blue arrow is showing going from left to right, optician all the way to optometrist or doctor of optometry on the right-hand side, and an indication of the countries that where the scope of practice exists in different countries, going from optician level all the way to where there's a doctor of optometry qualification. So the European Diploma in Optometry, it's a syllabus designed to be at the highest entry level of any European country. So it's set, as I said, at level 3B in the World Council of Optometry. It's tied to the European qualifications framework, so it has an actual qualification, a recognized point in the qualifications framework. It has political value, as we've said, to establish a high standard, with the aim of getting harmonization in the future, and it has educational value, we hope, in the sense of trying to raise educational standards. Harmonization, we've mentioned, the achievement of a common scope of practice, which could lead to free movement of optometric professionals, and the creation of a ladder of qualifications within a country, even, but that could also cross a border. So the way I view the European Diploma and the European qualification in optics as well is, yes, harmonization is important and the ability of free movement, but it's every bit about it's as much about raising standards as it is about giving people the right and the capacity to go and work in another European country. So by ladder of qualifications, that's what I mean. Going from the bottom left, optical supply, optical support services, to optical technicians, glazing, dispensing opticians, all the way up to optometrist eye examinations, optometrists using diagnostic drugs, and identifying pathology, perhaps even treating pathology with therapeutic agents. And in different countries, different countries are on different places within that. The legislative framework in countries only permits people to go so far, but I think it's useful to think of wherever you are in your country as being somewhere along that ladder of qualifications. Just in case you were thinking, is there an examination that would allow me to get the European Diploma in Optometry or the European Qualification in Optics? There was a route available for the European Diploma in Optometry, and there were examinations which very few people took and even fewer people passed. That route is no longer available. So the route to achieving accreditation for the European Diploma or the European Qualification in Optics is by successfully completing a course that's at an accredited institution. And I'm going to finish by just saying that they are the countries at the moment that are somewhere in the accreditation process. So the first ones I've listed, the top ones in Olten, Switzerland, Bente Institution in Norway, Booth in Germany, Karolinska in Sweden, Utrecht in the Netherlands. They all have full accreditation for the European Diploma. We only have one institution that has come forward so far for the European Qualification in Optics. That's the OHI Institute in Austria. However, there are many more, just as many, in fact, more and probably more names to add to this list of institutions that have had accreditation visits or have expressed an interest. So last September, we were in Saint-Étienne in France. In November of 2022, we went to both institutions in Finland, both of whom are seeking accreditation. Before all of the upheaval and unrest in Israel, we were out in Hadassah in Jerusalem and Bar Ilan in Tel Aviv, and recently we've just returned from Latvia. And as I said, there are more institutions who are expressing an interest in, and are beginning the process of accreditation. So I hope that kind of sets the scene for the qualification, what it aims to do, who's accredited. Oh yeah, sorry, I just have one final slide, and that is just in relation to student numbers. These numbers are accurate up to 2022, and you can see here it's broken down according to whether the graduates for the European diploma achieved their qualification via the exam. That used to exist, but it doesn't exist anymore. 56 people are European diplomats because of their taking and passing the exam. Olten in Switzerland has by far the highest number of European diplomats. And the reason for that is because all of their graduates, in other words, anybody who finishes the program in Olten, by virtue of having completed that program, they have done enough to be eligible for the European diploma. Whereas in other institutions, the next one along is Kongsberg, Bente Monica's. Only some of the students who graduate from the BSc program, many of them go on to do an MSc program, and some of those will become European diplomats. So it's only a selection of the graduates from the program. Bente Monica can correct me if I'm saying anything incorrect.
Right.
Yeah. And as we go along, smaller numbers from some of the others. So there's a running total on how many European diplomats. So a pretty small a number, and the overall, but growing, and the hope is to grow the numbers further as more institutions become interested. So I'm going to stop sharing at this point in the hope that we can get some discussion going and answer any questions that you may have.
Yes, please. I want to make some comments.
Thank you, Kyriakos. Go ahead, yeah.
I am Kyriakos Telamitsi from Cyprus, and I was in ICO before 20 years there for 7 years, represent Cyprus in ICO. Mm-hmm. So what my comments I want to translate with the good meaning and not the bad meaning. Today, just in this morning, I learned that Australian ONDs cannot work in USA as ONDs. They don't recognize. So because you mentioned European optometry outside Europe, just my comments. And my second comment is that in Europe, we have schools of optometry. We have good schools and better schools. I would not say we have a bad schools. But all these schools, the program is not the same around Europe. My third comment is the half countries in Europe, they don't recognize by law the optics or optometry. So how can you talk about European Academy or European diploma? Remember, I am speaking with the good meaning, not the bad meaning.
I really want to comment on that, if I may, Brandon. Yeah, mm-hmm. Because you're absolutely right, and that is why the European diploma exists, because we have a vision to harmonize, and of course it's difficult because the laws are different. The legislations are different, the scope of practice is different, but that should not hinder educators from striving to harmonize the educations and the scope of practice. Because in this world, there are 6 million people who are visually impaired, and 50% of those are due to uncorrected visual errors. And the numbers in Europe are just as bad, you know. So
yes, but the
yeah,
optometry.
let me
Yes.
continue. Yeah, please. Because as an education, because I speak from the education now, as a university, I feel it's my duty to work for this. And I see that the optometrist all over the world, just like the WCO also says, that the optometrist has a very essential role here. So that's why, at least for Norway and our university, why we have worked for accreditation. So it's a quality work, but it's also a very idealistic work. And the third thing, it's a very good way of mapping other educations. So in addition to lead the Norwegian education, I also am an advisor for the authorities in Norway who give authorization, license to optometrists who apply to practice in Norway. And it's so much easier for me to assess an education if I use the European diploma as my tool. Then I know what this candidate can do and cannot do. So yeah, I really appreciate what you mentioned, because that are the challenges, really. But I think the European diploma, it's a valuable tool for both the institutions, but also for European optometry. And I have had optometrists from Greece coming to Norway. They're still here. They did some extra courses and they work in Norway. Yeah.
I was just going to add to what you said there, Bente Monica. I mean, to my mind, the fact that there are so many programs and so variable and different legislative arrangements and different scopes of practice, that's the reason why you need something to anchor things to. You know, there needs to be some reference point, and I think the European diploma usefully provides that. Now, we do review. We've just conducted a review of the syllabus, so we're not saying that it's that it's a perfect qualification, or that it's perfect in every respect, but it's something. It's an anchor. It's a reference point, and it's set at a high level, and so I think it fulfills a useful purpose in that respect. But we fully understand that, you know, like in some countries, the level that the European diploma is set at is, you know, for example, the most common one is the use of diagnostic drugs. That's not permitted in many countries. But that doesn't mean that people can't aspire to the other elements and work towards achieving diagnostic drug use. I mean, we currently have an institution coming forward from a country where there's diagnostic drugs are not permitted for optometrists. But again, there are ways around that in terms of the training that they can receive in it and the exposure to diagnostic drugs, even if at the current time they're not able to use them in optometric practice once they qualify. But it's the training, I think, that's very important.
Can I ask a question? 2 questions, sorry. Can you explain the difference between the diploma and the qualification, which I don't understand? And the second thing is, I understand this program is for students who are now at one of the institutions that are acknowledged to give the diploma. What happens with optometrists who have qualified prior to going into this course? How can they receive accreditation? Do they have to go and study for 4 years again?
I'll answer let me cover the first question first. The difference between the diploma and the qualification. The European diploma in optometry is made up of 4 parts with a portfolio of clinical experience. That's the 4 parts. Part A is optics and optical technology. That's part A. The European qualification in optics is part A only plus a portfolio. So in other words, parts A, B, C, D in the European diploma, A is optics, B is refraction and visual function assessment. C is kind of the background biological science attached to understanding disease processes. D is communication. So if the qualification is a subset, it's a small subset of the European diploma. It's part A only plus communication and the portfolio of dispensing cases. And the European diploma in optometry is additional elements that moves it from optics only to what we might call optometry. Yeah. In relation to the second point, David, that's a difficult one. There are arrangements, and Bente will be more familiar with these than me, I suspect, where students can move from one institution to another for top-up training. So if, for example, somebody graduated from a program that didn't have full accreditation, and those two institutions, two institutions entered into an arrangement whereby students from the first institution could go for training in, for example, diagnostic drugs, theory and use. That training could be topped up, and I believe that's happened to some extent in Norway. But if somebody has graduated from a program that doesn't have European diploma accreditation at any level, then unfortunately, it's only graduates once the program becomes accredited. So we're building this up from the bottom, as opposed to being able to retrospectively say, well, all graduates of that program could have this qualification, when of course programs change and so on and so forth.
So that means that an optometrist who qualified in some country, never mind, we're not saying which one, 10 years ago, he hasn't got a chance.
Not for the European diploma. Well, no, I'm not saying that. Yeah, that's that. I think that's more or less true. However, in Olton, I believe in Olton that the course changed when they got accreditation. They were able to get in touch with their previous graduates going back a few years, not too many years, but back to when the course had last been changed, and they were able to offer them training in. It was diagnostic. It was the use of drugs again, and so when they put it to us, as to whether they could seek accreditation for those individuals who had done the course and topped up with their training in that, and that's part of that was allowed, but that's unusual. That is unusual. Yeah.
But you're so right, because we stopped offering taking the exam to achieve the European diploma, which was an individual-based way of doing it. And the idea is good for the individual, but for lifting European optometry up to a level, and to make the EU authorities aware that optometrists are health personnel, and that there are too few eye health personnel in the world. I mean, ophthalmologists cannot solve this problem alone. So to lift this politically, we felt in ECO that it was better to accredit institutions. We will get more graduates, and also that will enhance collaboration of educations across borders. As you know, we have great collaborations between our institutions through several Erasmus projects, and that's the future way of doing it. But as like Brendan says, there are still possibilities for optometrists with old educations. Some places, because we then offer the bridging courses, to lift the competencies. But then different countries do it differently. But but I was so curious. Can we get a hand up? Who is working with the education here in the audience? if you press the raise hand, and I'm just curious to see. Yeah, the clapping hands down there. So 2, yeah, 3, yeah, more, yeah. Yeah, so there's quite a few, yeah. And I was also curious to see if there are any graduates here who actually have achieved the European diploma. No? And are there any students here? I know there is one. Yeah. Hi, Rita. Rita is a student in Norway. Welcome, Rita. Yeah. Yeah. So I would just want to know, thank you. And of course, practitioners who is practicing optometry in their daily routine here. Yeah, there's a couple of you as well. Well, thank you. Yeah, that was great to see who's here, even though I recognize some names.
Yes, it's a little bit of a shame we don't have a European diplomat here who could have told us what difference, if any difference, they felt it made to.
Yeah, that's true. I did it. Yeah, I did invite, but yeah, so we could have asked. Yeah.
Can I ask you something?
Come in, Nachi, yes, yeah.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you very much, Brandon, for your presentation, and thank you very much, Bente, for being here and organizing this. Of course, thank you for the European Academy, Liliana. Since we have a lot of, we have many people here from our universities in Spain, because we moved from our Spanish council to them to attend this conference. And we think it's important to have universities accredited in Spain to push forward for the harmonization of the optometry in Europe. I think it would be a good thing, and I'm sure, Bente, you know about the Spanish system, because you were involved in the Oculus project with the Politecnica University of Catalonia. So you know how are our syllabus and how are we organized. I would like you to say, how is the process to get accredited for a university? Is it hard? Is it not? Well, what is the first step they have to do, and what are the changes that usually you have to make in the syllabus or in the organization of your degree to get accredited to adapt your syllabus to the syllabus of the European diploma? And second thing is talk about the value for their students. What is the good thing they can offer to their students to go through the European diploma? And if it supposes more, to study more or to do more studies, or they can fill it up when they are doing their degree in their universities. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important to show our members of the universities that are attending today here this. If the process is easy, I think it's easy, but what is the first step they had to do, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can say a few words. A great benefit of the European diploma is that it is built on the European qualification framework. So it has an academic level. And it is somewhere between bachelor and master in the competency ladder, education-wise. But that makes it a very not easy tool, but very valuable tool for quality work. And all universities in Europe, all educations in Europe on that level need to continuously do quality work with their education. And to use then the European diploma as your benchmark is in one way an easy thing to do. I mean, you should benchmark your education always, towards latest research, to make sure that you are teaching the students up-to-date knowledge, And to use the European diploma, then it's a good way, I think. So in some way it's easy because it's quality work. So the difficulty comes when you come to bits of the European diploma syllabus that you don't have yet. For example, diagnostic drugs. You don't have that pharmacology. Maybe you don't have a clinic with so many instruments, you know, that you can't teach this and that, you know. So it differs a lot. And I think, well, Rita, you're a student in the accreditation board, and you have seen some educations, and I, through the Oculus project, who visited institutions in India and Israel and several places in Europe, we're partners also. It differs so much what is missing. But the most common thing is the diagnostic drugs bit and investigation methods connected to that, like, you know, contact tonometry, binocular indirect ophthalmoscopy, you know, things that you need to use drops for. And the second part that is maybe difficult for an education is to make sure that the students see enough patients, you know, because the portfolio is quite big. So that, I think that is why most education maybe can't fit the European diploma into their education. So as Brendan said, in Alton, they have that and been able to do that. Whereas in Norway, we need to have the European diploma you achieve after you've taken the first year on your master's course. And that is to be able to see enough patients. And also we have had to move some subjects into the master's course. We have the diagnostic drugs as a bachelor competency because we think that is so basic. So that is why we have chosen to do it that way, because and also the Norwegian authorities wanted all optometrists to have that competence. So that's why we have it that way. But that differs from country to country. Yeah. So and the students, how they benefit, that was your last question. I think Rita, you have to correct me, but my impression is that our students see that they get a valuable bachelor degree in our as a basic education, but they also see that they need to do the European diploma because there's so many things that an optometrist should be able to do every day, like treat myopia, like fit RGPs, which is a part of the diploma part in Norway, which is kind of basic, but we have had to move it to that extra education. So
I agree with you, Bente.
yeah, please, Rita, present yourself and say a few words.
So yeah, I'm gonna present myself. So yeah, so I'm a student at the University of South Eastern Norway, and I'm a part of the accreditation agency as a student visitor. So for me, the European diploma, I found it really important because, like Bente and Monica said, we are not getting all the knowledge just in our bachelor degree. So the European diploma will prepare us to do a better work, and yeah, and it's always also giving us possibilities to harmonize the education, and we're going to be better practitioners.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rita.
That was my hope also. So did you get the answer you needed?
Maybe I could just come in and say something just about the process, Nacho. You know, what's involved from going through the accreditation process point of view. I mean, the first step is that institutions would make an informal approach, and we can discuss with anybody informally as to, you know, how to go about it. And there's also the website is enormously helpful. It's been updated recently, and all of the key documents are there. But the main document is called the self-assessment form, because the European Diploma in Optometry is based on learning outcomes. So it's based on what it is holders of the qualification would be able to do in terms of knowledge base and in terms of skills and clinical competencies. So I think that document is challenging for institutions to complete, because what it asks is that for each and every competency and each and every element of the knowledge base, that the course leaders or whoever's completing the document would say it's in this module, it's in this course, they get this much time on it, and here's how it's assessed. And for example, if it's an eye disease, this is how many patients that each student would see with that particular condition. That is challenging. There's no question that's challenging, because it's kind of interrogating the course in incredibly fine detail, saying are the learning outcomes of the European Diploma covered? And so once we receive the self-assessment document, we would then also have a look through the suite of documents that would be sent along with that, like course descriptions, module descriptors. Sometimes people would give link or provide links to material to demonstrate this is covered in this, on semester 1, week 5, between slides 25 to 40, that kind of level of detail, because what the accreditation panel needs to do is to assure itself that all of the learning outcomes are met. So that is challenging. There's no question about that. The next step in the process is that once we've considered the self-assessment document and the supporting documentation, that the panel would form what's called a provisional opinion. In other words, here are the things we're happy with, here are the things we can't find the evidence for, here are the things we're a little bit more concerned with. And then that sets up the visit, the actual physical visit would then take place once the provisional opinion has been issued. And so again, on the website, Bente Monica has just sent the link to the documents. On the website is a visit document. It gives you an indication as to what the visit would involve, who we would want to meet. Of course, we'll be meeting with staff and students and course leaders and people with input to the program and the senior people in the university, to try and get a sense of where optometry sits in their priorities. And then at the end of the visit, we give an indication as to, well, more than an indication, we make a decision, the panel makes a decision based on parts A, B, C, and D, plus the portfolio, whether the requirements of the European Diploma are met or not met. And it's not, that sounds very harsh, but if it's not met, it's very precise information as to why we think it's not met, and here are the ways in which we think you could actually address that. And insofar as we possibly can, we have to take into account the situation in which people work. So that, for example, when we were in Israel, they're not allowed to use diagnostic drugs, like in some European countries, but there was a way around that. They have an ophthalmologist who works on the staff, and they hire an ophthalmologist to come in a number of days a week, and under the supervision of an ophthalmologist, they can get experience and exposure to using and instilling diagnostic drugs, and then taking measurements under cyclopedia or examining the fundus through a dilated pupil. But yeah, so that's really the process. At the end of the visit, we give a clear indication as to whether it's met or not met, and where if we think it's not met, the reasons for that, and then a report is created based upon the visit and everything that's gone before that. And I think one thing that's important to sort of say a little bit more about is that it's usually a process. It's not a binary at the end where yes, it's a great success, you've got accreditation, or it's a total disaster, you haven't got accreditation and the whole thing was a waste of time. Invariably, what happens is, to begin with, some things are met, some things are, hopefully fewer things are not met, and then a period of time elapses when the institution tries to address the areas that of concern, and then in a subsequent evaluation they're closer or they've reached it. So it's as I say, it's often not the case that it's met on the very first instance. Usually there would be some conditions attached, and once those conditions are met, then full accreditation is given. And this kind of comes back to, I think, the role of the European diploma in terms of trying to develop education, because some of the institutions that we've worked with are really very keen to try, and they know themselves better than anybody, mostly, as to where the course could be needs to be improved. For example, in relation to patient exposure, or variety of patients, or numbers of patients, and so they're working towards that. And the European diploma report following the visit can really aid with that, because they can then go to their institutions and say, well, hang on a second, we want to get this accreditation, and the European ECU have said this will really help. So that can be used as leverage, really, to try and help them to develop their program. But it is, rather than, as I say, a binary, it's definitely more of a process. And the institution that we've worked with, towards the bottom of that list that I had, those institutions that are working towards full accreditation, and I'd be willing to bet that most or all of them will get there within not too long a time.
I can also add, before we give the word to you, Flores, that I have added in the chat now the link to, we attempted to make a guide for education institutions in the Oculus capacity building project a few years ago now, how to achieve the diploma. So it's worth to read through that. It's not a too long document, and there are some tips and hints in there. And there was one more thing, but I forgot now. So please, Flores, what did you want to hear about?
Thank you. Thank you very much for this very insightful talk and discussion we are having here. I completely agree as an educator that we need to move on and harmonize optometry education across Europe. I'm an optometrist who can actually practice optometry in 2 countries, and therefore I completely understand the real need there is for that. However, when we work with this, with students, they understand as well this harmonization, this need for setting higher standards, benchmarking standards. But the question I get from my students most of the time is like, I completely agree about that, but when I will be able to go and work in Norway? When will I be able to go and work in Ireland with this European diploma? And my question therefore is, how is that? Is there a prospect for that? Is there some work being conducted on that area in terms of, will optometrists be able to, with this European diploma, go and work elsewhere without the need to do other accreditation and other courses in other countries? Because that's the query we get from students most of the time about the European diploma. Is like, I understand the standards, we are happy with moving on to a system with better standards, harmonization, but when will I be able to go to Ireland or the UK or Norway? And that's something that I was hoping I could get a bit more of insight in this meeting, because it would be very helpful for us, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I really want to start if I can, but Brendan, please.
No, go ahead, Monica, you go ahead.
Yeah, because it isn't there yet, but I know that ECU is working for this, and we need more educations to be accredited for that to happen. But in practice, I can tell you that if we receive an applicant from a diplomat to Norway, he or she will get authorization right away. But that is different, because that is in Norway, because we now know the European diploma, it is acknowledged in Norway. So that will, per now, differ from country to country. you know, yeah, the more often this happens and the authorities will be aware of it, that itself will lift the European diploma in a way. So by doing this, you're not only improving your education, but you're actually helping building that harmonization process. So it is not there yet, but by doing this, we build it. And if we don't do it, we will just continue going different directions, you know. So both yes and no. But I also see that Norwegian optometrists who go to work in other countries, it is very helpful to have the European diploma. It eases the authorization process in other countries. It's not automatically, but it eases it. Yeah. So that's my comments.
And if I could just follow up on that, I agree with what Bente Monica said. In some countries, it seems to confer almost automatic recognition, but unfortunately, that's rare. That is rare, I think. I think in Switzerland it does. If holders of the European diploma can work in Switzerland, and Bente Monica has just said about that would mean that they could register in Norway. In the United Kingdom, the General Optical Council have a statement on their website saying that anybody who holds the European diploma, that would be looked upon, you know, that would be taken into consideration. In other words, it won't convey automatic right to work in the UK, but that it would be part of their decision-making process. So that's like a partial recognition. It's not full recognition. Very much what we're seeking is that this will develop to become, you know, that it will carry the weight, that it will allow greater recognition, automatic recognition even, is the ideal. So we're somewhere along that road, but we're not anywhere as far along as we would like to be, unfortunately. I think that there is one other thing to say, and that is that if countries, I think I'm right in saying that if a third of countries in the EU have mutual recognition of each other's professionals, that the EU then have to look at that with the sort of the intention of making it more wide. You know, in other words, it doesn't need to gather that much momentum before it could actually become sort of an automatic right, because you only have to get to this 1/3 barrier. So we're not there yet. We're far from it, but I believe that's potentially more achievable than getting recognition of everybody's qualification from every course. Nacho, you had your hand up, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing you're saying now, that in ECO, we're working about getting the recognition, European recognition for the European diploma. And that's it's needed to have at least, I think it's 6 or 7 countries to get the diploma recognized. Mm-hmm. And that means to have schools accredited. If we don't have universities accredited, we cannot have the diploma recognized in our countries. So that's the reason we're working on it in Spain, that because we think our universities are in the right level now to get easily accredited for the European diploma. So that would be another country to be in that group, you know. But we still need more countries to join the accreditation for the European diploma. If that happens, I think it's 6 or 7 countries. If that happens, European Union will consider European diploma the common diploma to work in any country. But anyways, all countries have their own legislation, so maybe they put some other limits. But to be recognized, we need countries.
Yeah, so every time a new country comes forward, that's really important. It's great to get another institution in a country that already has, but it's even more important to get new countries. Yeah. Bente Monica?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that another smart thing to do if you are an educating institutions is to find another institution and collaborate, because very often the different institutions have different strengths. Depends on the teachers and depends on the scope of practice in that country, etc. So to collaborate, to be 3, 4, 5 institutions and collaborate on this project is so beneficial. And it's also possible to apply for EU funding if you do that. So that is, I would really encourage you to contact your international office at your university and mention this, and they will help you to find the programs and also find the partners, because it really eases the process and it also finances the process. So you get some money. And I would say that you need a 20% position to lead the project for 2-3 years to achieve the European diploma. And of course, you need all the teachers to be a team and work on their curriculum. But that very often is a part of what they need to do anyway. You know, they need to teach and need to change the teaching, etc. But you need to train the trainers, you need to do things, and to collaborate then with other institutions is very valuable. Yeah, so
I think that's a really important point about the sort of formal cooperation, Bente Monica, and as you say, there's European, there could well be European money available for that, but also informally, we have, because we have a number of institutions that are accredited, they know, you know, that you've been through the process in terms of the difficulties with the portfolio and various other things that arise, and so we have, Julianne and I have regularly put people in touch with accredited institutions to say they'll help you, you know, get onto this person. It's people are genuinely very cooperative, really, in this respect, and will try and help each other. So the people who've been through the accreditation process, it's not formally set up, but they are, in our experience, very willing to help in relation to advice. How did you get around this problem? Right, this is what we did. Maybe we can do, this is what you did. Maybe we can do something similar, or here's how we bolstered our patient numbers or got around this problem or that problem. So that will only grow, I think, as more institutions get accredited. There's a bigger pool of people out there to help. So you know, just to say that after this a call, if anybody wants to get in touch with Julianne or myself, please do so, or Bente Monica, to hear it from the kind of the perspective of an accredited institution. Please do so. You know, it sounds like a daunting process perhaps at the beginning, but there are lots and lots of people who will advise and help you along the way.
And it's also fun. I must say, yeah, it is fun. Mm-hmm. We do have time for a few more questions, haven't we? A minute or so, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
We would need to finish up in 1 minute, so.
Okay, if there are any last questions, please ask them. If not, as I said, get in touch with us afterwards. You have our email addresses from the front of the slide, and I'd like to thank you for coming along on behalf of Bente Monica and myself, and I hope that was useful.
Thank you.